I Got Rhythm Part 11, I introduce an exciting and widely used phrasing scheme whereby you chain together a series of dotted eighth note accents to emphasize every third 16th note and create a tricky sounding 3s on 4s pattern. As I mentioned, getting to know that pattern well and being able to count it will definitely bolster your skills for playing and feeling rhythmically intense styles of modern music, such as prog rock, fusion, metal, and funk. What I'd now like to do is demonstrate how to apply the dotted eighths accent pattern with chords and some fret hand muting scratch strums, using the very musical and fairly easy to follow rhythm within a rhythm approach. What we're going to do now is take a 16th note melody pattern that I presented in the previous lesson, which, as you recall, was a bluesy Dorian chromatic line that walked down the A string and back, with each fretted note separated by 3 open A notes, and instead use a dominant 9 chord shape, A9, which is a mainstay of funk, R&B, and blues, and apply our accent pattern to it, while also keeping a down-up alternate strumming going, like this. 1, 2, 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a wow! So what we're doing here is pressing down on the shifting chord shape on every third 16th note, thus conveying the equivalent of dotted eighth syncopations. Meanwhile, we're keeping the rhythm going while lightly loosening our grip on the strings between each accented chord hit to create those pitchless percussive scratch strums, which is a sound you'll definitely recognize in the rhythm guitar styles of players like Corey Wong, John Frusciante, Prince, and Jimmy Nolan from James Brown's original band. Again, as we saw last month, notice that in 4/4 meter in the notation, the dotted eighths syncopation pattern takes 3 bars to cycle around to the point where the accent finally lands on beat 1 again. The chords I'm using here are really arbitrary and serve to illustrate how neatly the pattern works with a sequence of 16 changing chords. I worked it out mathematically. A simpler option, of course, would be to just play the A9 chord the whole time, as we had initially done with the single fretted notes last time, like this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Or you could start on a chord lower down the fretboard and descend chromatically 8 times, then descend. For example, start on D9 and walk up to B flat 9 and back, like this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and At the end of last month's lesson, I briefly referenced that super badass bass riff in Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang. What I'd like to do now is use a similarly styled riff that I came up with to illustrate 3 different incarnations of the same melody and dotted eighths syncopation pattern, as shown on screen in figure 2. So we have the guitar 1 part, which uses the rhythm within a rhythm pattern, and that goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. The second version, which I labeled guitar 2 part in figure 2, uses tied rhythms, but with the same dotted eighths syncopation pattern. So that goes like this. 1, 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. You run out of breath doing that, right? So you can always count in your head so you don't run out of breath, right? Finally, our third variation, the guitar 3 part, employs fret hand muting after picking the notes to create rests or holes of silence between the dotted eighth accents, like this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. So if you string those all together, I could do this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Notice in the notation here, when you see them all lined up, the vertically aligned counting prompts in the tablature kind of serve as training wheels for learning how to count and sight read these rather complex 16th rhythms. You're not going to see those in the real world. It's up to you to look at it and sight read and subdivide in your head. Also notice in the notation for the guitar 3 part here that I've consolidated any back-to-back 16th rests within the same beat into a single 8th rest. And I substituted a staccato 8th note for what would otherwise be a 16th note followed by a rest within the same beat. It's fewer items, easier to read. I think it makes for a more streamlined representation of the rhythms. It's a little easier to comprehend and understand. And we all need as much help as we can get, right? So have fun.